I mean, man, and I'm a JP resident and also want to start a full-term business in the future. But you started talking about exploitative capitalism and as being a white, race issue, and I just wondered, could you expound on that? Because I've traveled around the world and I've seen actually exploitative capitalism in a lot of other countries that are not white. So just wondered where that came out of.
Yeah. I think you're right. Capital will extract what it can from whoever it can. One of the things that, I'll just tell this little side anecdote, and I'll come back to your question. One of the things that we say in the book is Martin Luther King, toward the end, he had broadened his focus from people of color to all poor people. He was preparing his Poor People's March. He was in the South to support garbage collectors, and that was when he was shot. But shortly before that, he shared with Harry Belafonte, he said, I think we're working for integration, and I think we're going to succeed. But he said, I have this troubling feeling that we're integrating into a burning house. That as long as the entire economy is not working for ordinary people, it's not enough to just integrate into the economy as it is. And that was one of his final insights, and I think he's right about that. That we have to recognize racial bias, but then we have to recognize that the economy it will extract basically from anyone. And that's why we've lost the whole middle class. But so how does it start racially? There's, I don't know if some of you know Boston Review, really wonderful kind of a journal of ideas and the arts here in Boston. They've had some really good issues about this. And one of the things, they had a whole bunch of black historians talking about capitalism. And when you study business and economics, you start with Adam Smith, right? That's where that capitalism begins. Adam Smith and the wonders of the pin factory. Well, the pin factory employed apparently about a dozen people. And the real story of capitalism, according to these black historians, really goes back to slavery. And so you have the looms of Manchester, England. They're weaving the cloth. You have the slave plantations in the U.S. that are growing the cotton, and it's all financed by the financiers in New York, mostly Morgan and those so forth. And what these historians, the story they tell is that they said the slaves were literally the capital. That in order to grow cotton, you need money for seed and for planting and to keep you alive keep everything going until you can sell the cotton. And so you need these loans. Well, what's the collateral for those loans? It was the slaves. The slaves were literally the capital for that emerging system. And one historian said there was more, the wealth in slaves was more than all of the manufacturing in the country combined at that time. So the literal capital was slavery. Then you go and you look at colonialism nations of color were considered plantations. They were owned by the British Crown, and there were a lot. So racial extraction took many, many forms, and I think it was where a lot of wealth was created.
Can I just add one thing to that? I mean, it's not up for dispute that capitalism is practiced by all types of people of all different shades, sure. But I think about sort of like Olaudah Equiano was a former slave who then owned slaves, or in this country we sent African Americans to Liberia to enslave Liberians. And when I think about your question, I think about sort of what capitalism rewards, right? It rewards the holders of wealth. Many of those holders of wealth became wealthy through ill-gotten gains, through slavery is one example. So it perpetuates a certain type of racial extraction if you are starting certain people at step 10 and others at step negative 3,000. Right?
Because I'm just looking at a short period in history, because you could go back to slavery, going back to China and earlier in the Middle East. So slavery is based on the idea of exploiting people, but it's more than just American colonialism. That's